takes 10 years to build, 2 years to perfect, and 8 minutes to destroy. I was 14 when I first saw him at the park, walking his golden retriever while my brother called out his name from across the field. They'd gone to high school together and started catching up while I stood there feeling my entire world shift on its axis. He was 18 with dark hair that fell into his eyes when he laughed, and I knew right then that I'd never want anyone else. The 4-year age gap meant I couldn't just walk up and start flirting like the older girls at school did with their crushes, so I told myself I'd wait and find another way. Finding his Instagram was easy since my brother followed him, and I spent hours scrolling through every photo he'd ever posted. I befriended his younger brother when he started at my high school the next year, making sure to sit with him at lunch and help with his homework until we became inseparable. His family started calling me their second daughter, and I loved spending afternoons at their house doing homework in the living room. I made sure to wear my cutest outfits whenever I knew he'd be home from college, and I joined the track team since he still held our school's record in the 400-meter dash. During my senior year, he came back to help coach our team for volunteer hours, and we'd talk after practice while he drove me home. Everyone thought it was sweet how his little brother's best friend had become like family to them, but I wasn't satisfied with just being the family friend anymore, so I started taking notes whenever his mom talked about him during our coffee talks. She'd mention his ex-girlfriends casually while I memorized why each relationship failed, terrified of making the same mistakes they had. My laptop filled with spreadsheets tracking his schedule because showing up randomly would seem desperate, but planned encounters would feel natural. I screenshotted every girl who commented on his posts and spent hours analyzing their profiles, comparing myself to them, and dyeing my hair darker when I noticed 3 blonde relationships had crashed and burned within 2 years. My hands shook taking photos of his childhood bedroom while his family watched TV downstairs, but I needed to know which books shaped him and what bands mattered enough to stay on his walls. When he mentioned that New York job offer, I submitted college applications that same night with essays about journalism, my stomach churning because one wrong choice would put 3,000 miles between us. I'd practice conversations in my mirror, rehearsing ways to mention movies he'd liked. My journals became blueprints calculating when the age gap would stop mattering and scripts for revealing my feelings. The plan worked perfectly when we reconnected in New York, and within 2 years we went from coffee dates to a huge wedding with both families celebrating our fate. After a year of marriage, watching him tell our love story to friends while knowing the truth ate at me. So sitting in the car after 4th of July fireworks, I decided to test the waters. Wouldn't it be weird if we'd actually met before that day at your parents' house? I asked, watching his profile in the darkness. He turned to me with this soft smile and said, "That's impossible. There's no universe where I would have met you and not thought you were significant." My heart hammered knowing I was about to prove him wrong, but I kept going anyway. "What if I told you we did meet before? Years before I was introduced as your brother's friend?" He laughed like I was joking, so I pulled over and grabbed my phone with shaking hands. I showed him everything, starting with screenshots from when I was 14, then the spreadsheets and timelines and photos of his room. His face went from confused to horrified as he scrolled through years of documentation. "You planned this?" he whispered, and I tried explaining how it was romantic that I'd loved him for so long. I showed him the notebook with his initials, pages of conversation scripts, and notes of his mom's stories about him. My brother, my family, they were just tools to get to me. His voice cracked and I nodded, thinking he'd finally understand my dedication. He sat there shaking, scrolling through evidence of how I'd orchestrated our entire relationship. "Everything we have is built on lies," he said after exactly 8 minutes of silence, but then he started crying and pulled me close. "I don't want a divorce," he sobbed into my shoulder. "I just need time to process this. You have to tell my family the truth on Friday because they deserve to know." I agreed, and we drove home in silence, and when we parked he held me for 5 minutes before grabbing a bag and saying he'd stay at a hotel to think. I woke to his text saying he'd filed for divorce after going straight to his parents, who convinced him that 10 years of devotion was sickness, not love. His whole family blocked me within hours and warned everyone about the girl who'd studied her way into their lives. All that dedication wasted because he couldn't see the beauty in being chosen so completely, but I'm already past the grieving stage because there are so many others who need to be found by someone who truly understands them. The blonde barista who remembers your mother's name. She knows to mention the new gluten-free menu so your mother will share your dietary restrictions, asks about book recommendations to learn what shaped your mind, and sympathizes about dating apps to hear exactly why your last relationship ended, all while building a file more detailed than any therapist could create. We're architects of fate.